There we go. Welcome to Arena Respawn, the development stream, part 1. It should be unlisted. It is showing up as unlisted, so in a moment I should be able to copy the video URL and share it. That's my theory anyway. Alright, Kilo, let me know if you can see this, because I sure can't. There we go. It's coming up on my monitor now. Let's see. You should not be able to hear any music. That should just be for me. There we go. So yeah, let me know if this is working, either in Discord or in the actual stream chat, whichever one's easier. I'm not really bothered. Huh, it's not showing up as updating for me. It's in live mode? Yeah, it's got a fair bit of a delay on it. I see what's going on here, because I'm streaming it in higher quality, and I said, delay's fine. It's got a fair bit of a delay. I would say probably in the range of 10 seconds or so. So, actually more than that, I would say closer to 30 seconds. I'm kind of like moving around, just seeing where it reacts. So first things first, I want to fix, what was it, Mach 2. Mach 2 is having problems, and I want to show why Mach 2 is having problems. Actually, I should probably be moving my cursor where all of these things are happening. So I have these hacks in here. These hacks are called on trigger end touch all and on trigger start touch all. And the reason that these exist is because there's often these trigger multiple volumes that exist in arena maps. And the trigger multiple volumes are meant to open up the spawn gates, usually. And then like when everybody stops touching the spawn, it'll close the spawn. So like in hard hat, it closes the spawn door and removes all the spawn entities, so you can't get back in, which is kind of a problem because it's Arena Respawn, you need to be back in there. I got a here we go, so that sounds good. So what I do is I assume that if there's any triggers in the entire map that are doing on start touch or on end touch all, more than likely I don't want them to execute because they're probably going to block off a spawn area or make it impossible to get back into a spawn area. So I figure there's probably no legitimate use for it. But lo and behold, there is one. So instead of just fixing it, I want to show exactly why I'm fixing it and what I'm talking about. And in order to do that, that means we're going to have to go into the wonderful world of Team Fortress 2, which I have a shortcut to because of how often I'm in this goddamn folder. And under my downloads, I should have Arena Mach 2. There it is. So if I could just go ahead and pull up the BSP SRC decompiler. So this actually is what splits the map into, well, not splits the map per se, but it looks at the map and it tries to sort of reverse engineer like what the hammer file would look like. So let's go ahead and open this guy up. And let's add, oh, my cursor is all floaty right now. I don't think it understands TF2 in here for some reason. Selected file doesn't exist. Cool, we'll do it the long way then. It should be under downloads and Arena Mach 2. So we'll decompile the map. This will take a moment, but probably not that long. Yep, there we go. And let's open up Hammer. I often find it easier to just search for Hammer because there's one per every TF2 or one per every Source Engine game that you have in there, so just find the one that matches TF2. It's much easier that way. Alright, let's go open this guy up. And just to clarify, you shouldn't be hearing any music on the stream. It's kind of weird for me. I'm still getting used to this whole having a mixer thing, but in theory, there shouldn't be any music that you can hear. So if I go, where was this that I decompiled it into? I should probably have taken note of that, but no, I didn't. Put it in maps, that would have been smart. Probably not. Let's just see what it said over here. If I click on decompile again, where does it put me in? TF download maps. Okay, that's a sensible place to put it. Download maps and Mach 2. So, let's go find Mach 2. So here's Mach 2. Beautiful map, of course. Nothing really of note here. So you'll notice there's about 1 million brushes in here. Sometimes when you're just trying to find your way around a map, it's helpful to go in here and uncheck tool brushes, because there's a lot of them. Props will still show up as kind of these big orange or yellow like squares, but they resolve as you get closer to them. Awesome, you can't hear all the Doctor Who music I'm pumping through, which means I won't get copyright stricken. That'll be nice. So you can see all the trigger volumes in here, like, oh, here's a trigger capture area. Wow, that's where the control point is. Very exciting. But more to the point, if you look at, and I haven't looked at this, by the way, this is just my suspicion. If I look at the trigger volumes that surround the elevators, which I'm trying to get to, but all the pop-in is kind of hard. I bet you that these are, no, that's a Funkno build. I don't give a fuck about that. So apparently you can't build in elevators. It's not very interesting. Is there anything else in here? Can I bring the tool brushes back up? Maybe I was missing something. Hide that. No, I don't see anything. That's weird. Oh, maybe it's this guy. There it is. Trigger multiple. So in other words, when something enters the volume, it'll trigger it. It's a difference between a trigger multiple, and I think it just says standard trigger, is that trigger multiple can be triggered multiple times by multiple things. And look at that, they are using the on start touch and on end touch all outputs. More specifically, they're using the on end touch all. So on start touch is still going because my code is not interrupting that, but on end touch all never fires, so the elevator never resets. So by default, the elevator must be like in a down position. So the first time that somebody, well, this is really like trippy. The first time somebody rides the elevator, it activates all the right things and it makes you go up. And then after that, it doesn't reset. So I need to make sure it resets. So in most circumstances, I'm not going to want on end touch all to ever fire in almost all maps. It seems to me it would be more of a surprising behavior to have it cause a problem than anything else, because things like Arakawa and Hard Hat and other things use this to do that spawn logic I was talking about earlier. So instead of just putting in or defaulting everything to let these outputs go through, I'm instead going to make it default to still capturing those outputs, but if you want to edit the file, the map overlay file for Arena Respawn, it can turn those hacks off. That's what I want to do. So if I go back into my code, we'll start looking at some actual text, which will be nice. And I go into somewhere in here are all my map overlays. So let's bring up whatever map we're currently on, right? Mach 2 or something. Map overlay, Arena, map overlays, Arena Mach 2. So this is what an Arena Respawn configuration file looks like. It's more or less auto-generated. You can edit it yourself, but most of this is generated by the editor, which I should show off at some point too. So it's got everything in here from all the spawn bases under here. So it's got 6 spawn bases starting from 0 because I'm a computer scientist. The location of both reactor cores for Team 2 and Team 3, so red and blue, or yeah, red and blue. And then all the entity changes. This is the most recent part that I put in that actually registers, hey, at this particular location on the map, I want you to add in or change an item to be item ammo pack medium. If it's new, it'll show up here as yes, it's new. I won't be looking for a replacement. Otherwise, it'll be looking for an entity to replace. And you'll also notice that I didn't do the... Actually, the first thing I should demo is just fixing the health kit, because that's really easy, and I know that will work. This is also where I put in the new full ammo packs just for fun, because I wanted to put something in those rooms down there. So, hey, it's actually very readable. That's awesome. That's good to hear. I'm kind of keeping an eye on it on my computer as well, and I'm surprised that I can keep track of what I'm doing. The thing that's hard for me is that as a massive Unix nerd, I have to remember to not use keyboard shortcuts for everything and actually follow things with the cursor. So I'm going to turn the cursor, well, as soon as I start the server, I'm going to turn the cursor off. Is it already started? I think it might be. So let's take a look at my lab TF system. Oh, there we go. See, I'm not moving things around. System CTL status TF2 at Arena Respawn. That's the name of the service, and yes, it is indeed active and running. So I should be able to connect to it right now. I don't know what Magnifier would do if I launch TF2 with this still on. So I'm going to turn it off when I'm in TF2 just for safety's sake. So I guess just close it. There we go. And let's go ahead and get into Team Fortress. Team Fortress the second. One of the problems is that everybody can see my Archon password when I do stuff like this. In fact, here it is. Ooh, bleh, copy it down. So I'd have to do something to protect that a little bit better when I'm streaming. Like, I could even have it be a visible Archon password, but only allow the Archon to come from, like, my IP. Or something like that. I don't know. I'll figure something like that out. Oh, apparently it's lagging for me. I don't know if it's lagging on your side. But, of course, you can't hear me if that's the case. So we're going to put in windowed no border because it's really annoying to work with this, so I can't Alt-Tab out on a whim. And here we go. Yeah, it's extremely lagged to me, but I don't know if YouTube gives less of a crap about giving me my own stream versus other people. I don't know what would happen if I refresh the page either, so I'm not going to do that. Alright, so let's get into TF2. Ooh, that's loud for me. I don't know if it's loud for anybody else. Connect lab tf.local. My local TF lab instance. Getting some intermittent lag. That is surprising to me because I thought YouTube would kind of handle all that. Are you watching it in 1080p 60? And if so, consider turning it down because that's what I'm doing actually. Turning mine down to 480p because I don't need it. It's just a preview. Alright, so we're in Lumberyard. I don't care about that. Archon change level. Arena Mach 2. Can't really zoom in on that because I'm in game, but that's the idea. And I'll show you what the editor looks like, which is pretty cool. Go ahead and spectate. So the editor only works if you are in cheats mode to discourage people from using. You're in 480p 30 and you're having lag? I wonder if it's me. Right, so it's meant to discourage people from what's the word I'm looking for? From like modifying the game live. Like if you have your own server, you really shouldn't be modifying it live, so it's only in cheats mode. And then I do a bind q rs edit menu because that is the command that brings up the edit menu. And Q is just very easy for me to hit. So enable edit mode, and this really shiny grid thing shows up. And because actually what I'm doing is I'm drawing lots and lots of temporary entities just so you have a general idea of where your grid is. And let's say I want to change its health pack here because it used to be large back when we did dynamic updates, but now it's tiny. So we're going to go ahead and change pickup, and we're going to change the pickup to a medium health kit, and then save the map. That's it. That's all it takes to edit it. I mean, really, that's how I've been doing all these little manipulations here and there, including the large ammo packs that I've just put in here for fun because, I don't know, these rooms are so pointless, and obviously I can't put a spawn base in here because, or a spawn point, excuse me, using my own wrong terminology, because otherwise it's just too powerful as we discovered in previous playtests, so at least there's a reason to be down here. You can refill your cloak or your ammo or, you know, metal, whatever. So I'm going to get out of TF2, which is what a lot of this development is. There's a lot of A, going to Google, and B, coming in and out of TF2 pretty much constantly. So magnifier again. Maybe there's a keyboard shortcut I can put that on. I don't know. So now if I look at my Git repository, I'm going to use standard Git commands because more people know that than what I use, which is Emacs. And I do a... Oh, well, first I have to sync up all my configuration. So I wrote this little script that just syncs all the configurations from the lab server down to my local, and then I can actually use them. So now git diff, and we will see that, well, actually git status, let's do that. And we'll see, hey, there's been one change. It's been in arena mach2.cfg. And what does that change? So we go to git diff, and we'll see that we've added on a new entity change 08. Origin is wherever the hell this health kit was, rounded to the nearest hammer unit, because I discovered that having fractions of hammer units really makes no difference whatsoever. And we changed item health kit medium to, or we changed whatever was in that position to an item health kit medium. It was not a new placement, so new is set to false. Done. So now we just do a git checkout devel, because that's where I want to be working. I want to be working on the development branch at all times. Git add -a, so add the change in. Git commit -m. What do I want to say about this? Upgraded pill pack in arena Mach 2. Done. Git push. Gogs. So I run my own, as you can see here, gogs.party. This is my own Git repository hosting place, so I don't have to do everything like super publicly, and then it doesn't cost me money like GitHub does. So there it is, upgraded pill pack and arena Mach 2. Yep, looks like it to me. Awesome, done. So that's the easy part. Now for the hard part. The hard part is I want to add something new to this file. Let me just, yeah, this is already updated, right? Yeah. So I want to add something completely new to this. I want to add in some arbitrary stuff. Like I want to be able to say something like disable trigger multiple hack 1. I don't know how well this is going to work. In theory, that is a correct usage of key values. In practice, I don't know how I'm going to actually read it. So this is the part where we Google a lot, essentially. Welcome to Google. This is a SourceMod API, so I'm going to be looking at all sorts of things that are related to key values. They have a data structure called key values. It's not even really, it's not like they came up with it, like, because I have faith enough in these developers that they probably would have come up with something a bit better. But key values are used internally in Valve stuff all the time. Why am I conking out so much? Like, at least on my own screen, I'm conking out a lot. Let me see. So I'm doing, do a little bit of live debugging. Why not? So I'm doing 11,000. Well, here, I'll just show you what I'm talking about. Why not? Just open up OBS. Ignore the Drosty effect. Under stream output, I'm doing an 11,000, bitrate of 11,000, which should be fine, in theory. So, because YouTube is just like, you know, whatever you want to give me, that's fine. If it's 1440p and you give me 11,000 bitrate, that's I'll figure it out. But it appears to not be figuring it out. That's the only thing that's concerning me. How much am I doing in terms of output right now? Let's bring up Task Manager like a cool person. Ethernet. Wow. Well, it's 11 megabit. I have a 60 megabit upload. That is 0 problems as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know. I'll keep an eye on it. I'll see what happens. CPU's doing fine too, which is pretty surprising considering it's encoding 1440p. Happy about that. I'm just gonna continue on. So key values, they're used in the actual Valve code, and this allows you to manipulate them. Key values are a very primitive data structure of just like literally key and value. But it's useful because you can use it in like these sorts of places. You can use it in configuration files and stuff like that when you're doing stuff like that. And it's useful because then I can like git version them and update them and give people new versions of configurations when like everyone and their mother is running this game mode. So I want to know how to get a key value. Dispatch key value, create key values, file the key values. Key values, how about we just go to key values? Get data type, get num. Probably this. So handle key value, const char key, and def value. I think I'm able to do this multiple times. When you're working with a key value for whatever reason, it tends to, it keeps track of where you are in the key value stack. And if you're recursing down several layers, like for instance, if I'm in the map overlay area, it's all the same level. As soon as I get into spawn base, it's one level deep, and if I look at spawn base 0, then it's another level deep. And then in order to get back to where you need to be, you have to do like a special rewind function, which is annoying. But I think that if I'm staying at the top level, I don't need to worry about rewinding or adding to the stack. So we're going to go ahead and just do a very naive kv get num on disable trigger multiple hack. And it does allow me to specify default value, which means that I can have, or I can forget to specify that somewhere in the configuration, and it won't be a problem. So it won't explode my code, in other words. So let's go ahead and put that in there. You can see this is like the newer code because it's got like comments and it's like nicely indented, whereas like the stuff I've done before is just like, bleh, whatever. Like, I hope this works. This is like paragraphs of explanation. I want to get all of the code to be like that so people can understand what the fuck I've done, because I sure don't. All right. So if we look at on trigger and touch all, we only want this to happen So if respawn is not enabled, obviously we don't want to do anything. We want this plugin to be able to exist even when you're not running Arena Respawn. Or, here comes the fun part, mapconfig.kvgetnum, or I think it's just getnum in this case for some reason. Disable trigger multiple hack, and default value is going to be 1, and we just are going to check if that exists, if it's greater than 0, basically. So in that case, we should just skip it out and say, all right, do plugin continue. In other words, continue doing whatever this trigger would have done otherwise. However, there is a small problem with this line of code I've just written, which is that if you look at all the way down here, I am on character 84. As you work in a more and more complex code base, it gets more and more important to not have incredibly long lines unless you're doing a message. Because if you're doing a message, you want to be able to grep for that message when you need it. So I'm going to go ahead and disable. I'm just going to go ahead and move this into disable hack as a Boolean variable. There we go. Paste. And then I'm going to go and delete all this crap, which is probably a faster way to do, but I'm not that good. Disable hack. Oh, that indentation tells me I forgot something, which in this case is that extra parenthesis. So in other words, if respawn's not enabled, or if the hack is, if we're setting the hack to disabled, then we're just going to go ahead and let the trigger continue. Then we're going to take the same exact logic and we're going to apply it to on trigger start touch all. This one's a little bit different because it's also got a kill in here. I've got a massive paragraph of explanation that basically comes down to, look, if you're doing a non-trigger start touch all, you're probably doing something I don't want you to reverse, like opening up a spawn door. So let's go ahead and do disable hack in here as well. And if this works, that'll be great, but this is the easy part. I should let you know that right away. So let's go ahead and commit these changes. Oh, that's weird. I thought these were... Sorry, not zooming down. Oh, right, because this is not I'd confused this with the health kit change, but this is not the health kit change. This is both the disable hack code and adding in this key value to the key value file. Hopefully that'll work. We'll find out. So we stage all these changes and we make a commit message that makes some kind of sense, like I don't know. Disable disable trigger multiple hack in Mach 2, and we push it up, and the fun begins. In the old days, this is where I'd have to go build the plugin. That's really annoying and tedious, which is why people make build servers, and this is why I have a build server called Concourse. So let me go ahead and log into that sucker. And I now have a pipeline that is listening for any changes being made to the Git repository, and then it will go ahead and just do a build. So if I look in here, sometimes Concourse doesn't let me click on things, and it's really not cool. It's already started a new build 509. Anything that's green worked. Anything that's brown, I interrupted. Anything that's red, there was a problem. So it goes ahead and grabs that source. Opens up a Docker container with all the source mod stuff in it, and yeah, it's going to build the plugin at some point. Sometime in the past week or so, this thing has gotten stuck on me, and I'm hoping that doesn't happen today, because it slows me right down when my build system does not work. Stream health. In the meantime, I'll check my stream health, because apparently that's a thing I can look at. The stream's current bitrate is higher than the recommended bitrate. We recommend that you use a stream bitrate of 4,500 kilobytes per second. Well, where was I reading before that I could do more than that? Oh, anyway, so we errored. Why did we error? Tag mismatch, undefined symbol map config. Oh, I thought I had that as a global variable. All right, this is where things get fun. I should probably turn down the settings. If I do that, is that going to interrupt the stream? Probably. It'll probably make a new stream. That'd be annoying as hell. I don't know. Curious. Change. YouTube change stream settings midstream. Does not tell me. Does not tell me at all. Lame. Yeah, it'll probably make a new stream. I don't want to do that right now. I don't want to, like, because it'll make another link I have to share and all that stuff. So we're just going to run with it and see how unbearable this gets. So somewhere in here, oh, it's apparently not called map config. I think I might have called it with something with camel case then. Get me out of there. Map config, is that what it's called? Yeah, clearly. There's about 1 million references to it. So we're going to go ahead and replace that. Map config is going to be replaced with map config. I forgot that I started to use camel case like a proper C programmer. Okay, let's go ahead, trigger another build manually just to speed it up a bit. And here we go. Code's compiling. Ah, water. This thing really shouldn't be taking as long as it is. I know there's something up with my poor Chrome box that I'm doing all these builds on. I am considering replacing that with like a Threadripper of some sort, but not yet. It's a lot of research to do. But if I could replace it with a Threadripper and I could also get it to build BSPs, you know, maps, that would be pretty baller. Come on, build. What I might do is I might actually take the worker off of my slower computer and only do the worker on my faster computer, because I can do that. That might speed my life up a bit. Here we go. Oh, we got a... No, we didn't have any errors. We got some warnings, some stuff I need to change in the code base, but not related to this change. So now it's going to go ahead and upload that zip file to Amazon S3. And I think I am going to stop the worker after this one because I want it to just be on my faster machine. So let me go ahead and do that. And sudo systemctl stop concourse worker. And we'll start it. I'll have to remember to start it after the stream's over, but hopefully that will speed things up a tad. There we go. And now it will have triggered a deployment directly onto my development server, which is incredibly helpful. Instead of having to go in and copy all the things myself. This is much, much nicer than it used to be. This whole process, even with all the delays, used to be a lot longer and a lot harder to deal with. Like if I had an error that showed up somewhere, I wouldn't know where to, you know, I'd lose that terminal eventually and have to go find it again. Now I can just do it in here. It's much nicer. Okay. So once this is over, I'm going to stop the worker. Go on, alert me on Discord. I know. I'm aware of it. There we go. Stop the worker. Well, I think I hit enter. I thought I hit enter. There we go. So now the future builds will be a little faster, provided it's working on here. Loaded but inactive. Okay, that's a bit of a problem. So we want to start it here. I'm sure I had a reason for disabling that before. So now I can go into TF2. I'm going to see what happens when I leave the magnifying glass on. I imagine it's going to be quite funny. Let's try it out. But now I should be able to get into my server and see whether or not it's disabled the thing. Magnifying glass is still functional-ish. It's kind of useful because then I can go down here. Well, well, well. Oh, it actually blocks the whole upper part of my screen. That is obnoxious as hell. I thought it might resize it, but apparently not. Well, anyway. I think I'm going to go ahead and turn off the magnifier. Is there a way for me to just quickly, like, no, know where to toggle it? Right? No, this is just a giant settings thing. I don't care. So, close out of you. Alright, Mach 2, let's see what we got. Oh. I always populate it with a couple bots in case you need to test something. It's gonna trigger me anyway.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here we go. I have no idea what the game volume is versus me, by the way. I imagine quite a bit louder. So let's find out. So we know this will go up once. Question is, will it go up more than once? Yeah, seems like we fixed it. So we enter the volume, enter the trigger volume. It says, okay, I'm going to start. And then as soon as everybody leaves the trigger volume, myself included, then it resets. So that seems to be working. Was there another elevator in here? Or was that the only elevator? Oh no, here's the other one. Okay, so that one's working. Try it again. And it's working. Okay, we fixed Mach 2.
Mission ends in 10 seconds.
Or is it? It's not over. Because if I save the configuration file while I'm in here, it's going to overwrite the old configuration file.
Control point enabled.
And, but will it go up 12 times? That's for Fan to find out. Or maybe Smart Alex. So basically, the order of operations is... Why don't I just pin this? This would make more sense if I pinned it. Okay. Map underscore overlay dot inc. So at the very beginning, we do a load configuration, which does a bunch of stuff. It actually reads the whole file. It puts the spawn bases in memory. It puts the entity changes in memory. Problem is, I have not done anything here to put in these arbitrary-ass key values in memory. So now, if I'm in the editor and I perform a save, it's going to overwrite the file and get rid of my addition. So I need to come up with a system to put arbitrary key values in memory. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. Let me explain why. So all the stuff that's actually in the configuration files, all the spawn bases, all the entity changes, are represented in memory not as key values, because key values would be obnoxious to deal with beyond a certain amount. And like, for instance, when I'm looking at spawn points, there's like a bunch of stuff I need to put in there, metadata, like, okay, well, what's your shield model, what's your how many people are currently being healed by you, like that kind of stuff. And if I put that all in key values, it'd just be a mess. So I translate it back into key values when I do the save. However, these arbitrary key values, I should probably just have them be represented as key values and saved as key values. The problem with that is that I've already got all these other key values that I need to like deal with, the reactor key value and the entity changes key. Like, I don't want to store those as they were originally because they may have changed, whereas these are probably not going to change. So I could hard code something in and say, look, and if it's not equal to spawn base or reactor or entity changes, then save it as an arbitrary key value. But I don't think that's very neat. So I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make my life a little bit more complicated, but it's going to make things a little bit, I was going to say smoother, but it's going to make things more logically consistent, I guess. So I'm just going to make a new section here called configuration, or config, I guess. Or hacks. Oh god, what if I just hit? Let's not hit that button again. There we go. Put a tab in there. And I think I'll just store everything in there under config. So I'll access it as key values and I'll store it as key values. Does the name make sense? What else am I going to put in here? Probably other configuration variables. I'm tempted to call it special because I don't want people to think that this is that important. It's only going to be on certain maps that you need this or anything in here. So I'm going to call it special. What else do people call things that are like normally in like some places you call this like hacks, like straight up like hack modes. Like when you're doing emulation and stuff, you just be like, okay, what hack do I need to enable? And this is part of programming. He's just standing here just saying, okay, what do I want to name this goddamn thing? Because I'm going to use this for other stuff. Like I might have one in here called like, you know, unfuck Danktown. Because I don't know if anybody remembers, but Danktown used to have a whole bunch of stuff, like a whole bunch of extra spawns in it. So, God, I don't know. Because all of this is config. I can't call it config if it's all config. I'm going to call it special. Screw it. And then I got to go represent it and store it in something useful and then remember to save it later. So this is going to be the part that's boring AF. So first of all, I'm going to take this global variable map config and I'm going to make another one called key values special config and initialize that to null. Can't type apparently. I'm looking at my magnifying glass to type for some reason and that's like completely screwing me up. So not that old, I don't need the magnifying glass to type. So special config, and then we're going to load that sucker in when we do a load config. Map config import from file. It doesn't help me. Where is this getting called from? Because clearly it's getting called and other stuff is happening with it. It's getting called in the massive needs to be broken up respawn underscore reset world function that does way too many things. But here we are. This is the bed I've made in and I have to lie in it. So let's, I guess I'd have to add it in here. That's really obnoxious. Set up spawn bases. Nah, I'm going to call this on a special case because nothing else has like this metadata. Oh, I should call it metadata, shouldn't I? That would make sense. Let's call it metadata. I don't know what's going to be called metaconfig. Like, that just sounds stupid. It's better than special, though. Everything's special. Mach 2. Metadata? No, it's really not. It's special. Whatever. So this is kind of like a piece of metadata. So I'm going to actually handle this inside the load config and save config functions myself. When I say myself, this part of the code is going to be responsible for it. The rest of the Arena Respawn plugin doesn't need to know about it. It just needs to be able to access it. So blah blah. We warn found not found. Eventually, we're going to actually outright unload the plugin if there's no configuration found, because I don't want anybody to be playing Arena Respawn without spawn bases and reactor quarters. At this point, it's just not the game mode. So frankly, if you don't have it, it should fall back to arena mode or Koth or whatever's in there. So anyway, if we're here, we know that we've successfully loaded. So let's do a special config equals map config dot. How do you get key values from key values? Sounds dumb, but like, how do you do? Makes a new copy of all subkeys in the origin key values to the destination key values. Note, all key values are processed from the current location and not the root one. This is where things get complicated. So it sounds like there's no way for me to just copy a reference to the key values. I'm probably going to have to copy all of them. Now, I don't... again, there's two ways to go about this. One of them is just always reference the map configuration file, or always reference the map configuration variable, and then remember to rewind when you're done, which is kind of annoying, or copy crap into memory. And I'm sort of more tempted to copy crap into memory because we're going to have to copy it back from memory later on anyway. And I think that's going to be fine. So we're just going to run with that. I've never done this one before, so it'll be entertaining. KV from origin to destination. Is there an easier way to do this? Is there a more automatic way to do this? Guess what? It's not documented. So SourceMod is doing this thing where they're trying to make more object-oriented sorts of like idioms for their stuff. So for instance, it used to be that you'd have to do like, KV get values, blah, blah, blah. Instead, I can do things like map config dot import from file path, like as if this were treated as an object. Now, none of that is actually documented in here in their documentation. So now we get to go to GitHub, SourceMod, and find the key values file. Because I want to be consistent and use the same sort of way of accessing things everywhere. That's just a bunch of tests. Okay. Keyvalues.inc. There we go. So this is how they define their object-oriented like structure method map. Export to file, export to string, import from file, import from string, import, set string, set num, blah, blah, blah. Why is none of this in the documentation? Set vector, set string, get num, get color 4. Oh, yep, that really comes in handy a lot. Jump to key, save position, no. Jump back to the previous position, delete a key, delete this, rewind. That's the one I was talking about where you have to rewind back up the stack every time that you traverse more than one level in. Get section name, return the data type. Wow, there's a lot of shit. When I say shit, it's actually really good, but find key. All right, so I don't see anything in here that's going to do a copy. I think this one's going to have to be outside of the object-oriented quote-unquote structure. Just going to verify that. Yeah, this one's actually just a separate native all to itself, not being used anywhere else. So we'll just do that. Is it fine that it's not? Yeah, I'm going to have to initialize it, I think. Special config goes new key values. There we go. And we do a kv copy subkeys. And this is where I'm going to have to do some stuff where I jump to key, right? So, and I only want to do this if the keys exist. And I think that jump to key gives me a false or something that'll tell me if the jump failed. Jump to key? Yes. Yes. Okay. So what I mean by that is, when I take a look in the configuration, we begin on this level, the map overlay level. We don't even look at this really. We don't have to like jump to map overlay. We're just automatically in it. It's the lowest level possible. And then when I'm like, okay, well I want to go somewhere and I want to go down one level, I have to jump to key special or jump to key spawn base or jump to key reactor. But not all of these maps, in fact most of these maps are not going to have a special. So that jump to key is going to fail and we need to be okay with that, and we need to be able to write back to the file even in the case that there isn't a special value. So we need to code around that. So we do we're always going to make special config a new key values object because we're going to want to be able to access it. It's just going to be empty, and that's fine. So I guess it means that we're going to write an empty special config to every single map as we save it, which really isn't a problem. Having empty configuration blocks is really like a non-issue. It's just, it's a little bit not neat, but it's not bad to be explicit either, so it's fine, really. So if kv.jump to key, or not kv, sorry. If map config.jump to key special. So in other words, if it was successful, we're going to do some crap. So we're going to do the copy subkeys method that we just found like a minute ago. And we're going to we're going to copy from map config to special config. I'm really hoping that that means it will copy subkeys from where we currently are in the traversal stack. That's what I'm betting on. And regardless of whether or not this is successful, now only if this is successful, then we'll do a rewind. Whoa, hello, don't do that. So we do map config.rewind because other parts of my code are going to expect to go from the beginning. So then we go back to the arena respawn.sp, and instead of going from map config, we're going to go special config. Actually, I just realized I did a big oopsie. Yeah, it's two big oopsies at the moment. So one of the reasons why this works so successfully is because when I did a get num, I should not have done this. I don't know why I typed it in this way. It was just a typo. I set the default value to 1, which is not what we want. We want this to be... We don't want the disabling to be on most maps. We want it to default to 0. So it should be a 0. Problem is, too, I'm now over 80 characters. So I have a couple choices. One of them is I could just turn this into an integer instead and not do the comparison until the if statement, which is kind of where it's more appropriate anyway. So again, we do int here, int disable hack, and we just set the integer, and then we do the comparison in the if statement a line later. Pretty neat, works for me. So now I'm just going to go back and now I'm not going to test it yet. Well, to be fair, I probably should test it because now I've changed everything from map config to special config, and I've done a copy that I don't even know works. So I am going to go ahead and test it before I start adding in the things that will actually enable it to be written back to the configuration file. So we're just going to overwrite what we did before and kick off a new build, which hopefully will go a little bit faster this time since I've turned off the concourse worker on my Chromebox, which is predictably pretty slow. And you can see 45 minutes have elapsed, and this is how far we are, and this is basically how Arena Respawn development works, even when you're doing something incredibly simple. There's a lot to think about. Oh, I've done a dev deploy. That was stupid. We don't have anything new to deploy. We haven't done the build yet, dummy. I don't know what I'm thinking. There we go. Now we get to sit here. Yup. Super fun. This is why I like listening to music while I'm doing it. What just like broke? It's not going much faster. It's never been a fast process doing the builds, but it's definitely gotten slower in the past 3 days or so. Which means something is wrong with something in my network that I need to fix. Oh, I guess part of the reason this one's slow is because it didn't have a copy of my source mod image locally yet. Since this is a worker on a different server than normal. So that's not that bad. Yet. Okay, 2 errors. Great. Loose indentation, unreachable code. So I must have basically typoed pretty bad. That's usually what that means. Line 1008. If you have 1008 lines of code in one file, you've probably done something wrong to begin with. Oh! Added in a semicolon where I didn't need one. It was right there. And build it again. Oh, we have a new error. Number of arguments does not match definition. On line 69. Alright. Okay, why would key values require arguments at all? It's just saying instantiate a new one. I have a funny feeling it might need the name of the first key value structure. Yep, name of the root section. Don't know why you would care about that, but okay. Almost everything else that we do is new that doesn't require that. So we'll go ahead and call that section special to match the name of the section in the configuration file. Do it again. And if this works, then we have to figure out how to write it back to the file on configuration save. And then we have to make sure it works on things that aren't Mach 2, like Arakawa. It doesn't actually break the spawn doors. And then we get to finish that part. And then I forget what else I need to work on. I've got a notepad document up here somewhere. Mach 2 unfuck elevator, Mach 2 medium health on stump. We've done that. We've accomplished something today, which is good. Something about spawn point protection. I might consider a completely different method for keeping track of spawn point protection than I currently have. Spies don't get overheal on enemy points when disguised. That one should be pretty darn easy. Oh yeah, then the notifications for what your estimated respawn time is. Not sure that one's happening today. That's a pretty big project unto itself. It's probably like a good hour dedicated. Probably a little bit more than that. I guess I'll close Hammer while I'm sitting here. Don't need this anymore. Fun as it is. Alright, so we've now officially reset the server. Let's get back into it. And turn the magnifying off because it's annoying. Gotta make sure the game is quieter than me. One last thing for me to think about. You'll notice I've turned off the music on TF2 start because that has driven me slowly insane as I constantly trigger in and out of the game itself. Hearing the rocket jump waltz for the 30th time in one day does not do good things to a man's sanity. Mach 2. So one thing I'm going to do is I've got this watching one of the, oh, I thought I did anyway. I've got one of these things watching the logs of the server. When I'm dealing with like key values and stuff like that, I fully expect there to be something like, oh, you accessed something that didn't exist, haha, dummy. So expecting to see something like that. Recon bot. I guess I could probably do something in my like global configuration to automatically do this svcheats1 command. But honestly, it's not that annoying.
5,
the constant, like the unending wait between code push and testing and the server starting up again. That's much more annoying. Okay, so we've got that. Does it reset? Might. Okay. Wow. I'm genuinely impressed that this worked so far. I don't see anything that's spewing out saying you accessed a dumb thing, you dummy. Fully was anticipating some kind of failure at this stage. Even though everything I did was like logically consistent, it still breaks. Because Valve. Okay, so everything here seems to be working fine. So let's go ahead and do another test. I can't do the saving test, obviously, because that's a problem. It's called a bat saber, not a lightsaber, thank you. Archon change level, arena, hard hat. I know we don't really play hard hat, but hard hat's the most obvious one to see when it's gone wrong, so. Arakawa has some other problem that I can't remember exactly how it works, but I know exactly what's wrong with hard hat, so. Much easier to deal with. I've considered sinking some time into, like... I just realized I have too many bots to really test that. Whatever. I'll just quickly end the round. I thought about putting like some time into getting some dev tools in. Maybe making it simpler to iterate, but... yeah. So it would be a lot of effort for not a whole lot of benefit. Because I'd still want to test things as if they were not in dev mode anyway. Bot kick all. Okay, that didn't work. Archon bot kick all? There we go. Archon bot. So I have only one bot. So now I should be able to walk in and out of spawn, and yep, it does not close the spawn door, so that means that the trigger hack is working on this map and not working on Mach 2, which is exactly what I wanted. So let's finish this up and do the saving part. So somewhere in here is a function called like save config. There's some save to config. Here it is. Map overlay, reactor cores, map overlay, entity modifications, and then write to file. So I need to add a step in here somewhere. Can I just copy it right back? I think I'll be able to. True means created if it doesn't exist, and it may not. Well, it won't because it's empty. Yeah, that's right. I got rid of all the map configuration stuff when you do. Yeah, everything is basically held in memory and then translated back in. That's why. So now I think all I have to do is key values or kv copy subkeys in the other direction. So I say from special config to map config. And then I do a map config.go back to make sure it's back up to the top. I think I'm doing a go back and I'm doing a rewind in other places. Now I think I want to do a full rewind to go back up to the top of the stack so that it will then write spawn base at the top level and all the reactor cores at the top level, blah blah blah. So we push that up and get ourselves in, what we're going to do is get ourselves in edit mode, and love when Concourse doesn't let me click on things. Get ourselves in edit mode, save the file, take a look at the saved file and make sure that the information is still valid. And then we might actually be done with that task. That was much faster than I anticipated. The spawn point one, if I get some time to do the spawn point, completely changing how spawn points work, that's going to be an adventure, because that involves me reading arrays from netprops, which I don't know if anybody's really done or if there's a supported way of doing it. So that's going to be fun. I should probably start Googling for that, like while this is building. Source mod, read, array netprops, something like that. It's not very useful. think it's netprops. So this is a very useful repository from PowerLord. Thank you, PowerLord. I use it all the time. It just gives you every single, it gives you, you can do this via source mod commands, but it gives you this nice dump that you can control F through of all network properties. And another file, it's got all the data maps. Data maps, by the way, the reason they exist was originally to like save files in, I guess, Half-Life 2 or whatever. And now it's just like meant for all data that isn't, I don't know why that data even is accessible through data maps, because like if it's all local to the server and it's all local to clients, and why is it anywhere? But the net props obviously are the ones that get networked across. So we're going to search for healing array, I think. Yeah, healing array. I don't really understand what this is. But the plan here is, when I get to this part, I want to, every 100 milliseconds, look at who's currently being healed by the dispenser. And if anyone's being healed by the dispenser, just straight up pop the shield on. If nobody's being healed, pop the shield off. End of story. Before, I was doing my own checks and trying to make my own like line of sight checks match up with Valve's line of sight checks, but that's getting dumb. The whole reason I did that was because I was trying to do things in a more event-based fashion. Like, because this happened, trigger this action. But more and more I am finding that A, that's much less consistent, and B, Valve themselves, for things that you think would be like event-based actions, like, okay, the flag got captured, or the point got captured, or whatever, we're going to update the game state and say XYZ person won. Things that you would think would have to be frame perfect. They don't do it. They do it in think functions that run 10 times a second. And no one has noticed, and it hasn't caused any bugs, so I should just do what they're doing. I was doing that because I thought, oh, I don't want there to be a frame or something where it's like the spawn base should have been protected and it wasn't, but Valve doesn't care about that kind of precision. Why should I care about that kind of precision? And I'm seeing all the pitfalls. Oh, pardon the pop. I'm seeing all the pitfalls with the event-based system too, because you can always miss events. You know, things don't always trigger events when you think they do. Like, I thought that like when somebody died, it would always trigger an on-end touch all. Doesn't seem to always do that. That's where we got the bug from, where it's like every once in a while a spawn base is considered protected even though somebody died, because their death didn't trigger a stop touch event, which is crazy to me. So if that's the level of consistency Valve uses, why the fuck wouldn't I use it? It certainly makes the code a shit ton easier. Okay, so let's go into edit mode. Bind Q RS edit menu. If you're wondering why it's not a permanent bind, by the way, it's because I use Q in-game to do like last weapon and to close menus. And having it bound to edit menu is really, really annoying. So I only do this when I'm editing. If I'm editing, I'm in the console usually anyway, so I just type in the command. It does help if you're in SV Cheats mode though, as I mentioned earlier. So all we're going to do now is hit save. That's going to trigger all that code. And we're going to see what the saved configuration looks like. So we're going to go directly onto the... get the magnifier back. Oh right, I pinned it. That's right. We're going to go directly onto the server itself and see what it's doing. Because of course it saved it locally to the server. So let's go to Arena, Respawn, TF. We've got such a crazy long path because I wanted to be able to support multiple servers. That was part of it. Haven't had a need to do that ever since I found Vulture, but it's there in case I need it. If we have a giant server, I'd like to run 5 servers in parallel instead of just one server for some massive piece of hardware. That'd be silly. So anyway, CFG respawn map overlays and arena underscore Mach 2. And you'll actually notice it was a save because I was using in my configuration when I edited it manually. Because honestly, using tabs is a pain in the ass in Emacs. Because who uses tabs? I put a space in here. The fact that this is now a massive tab means that it was... let me show it to you here. This giant tab means it was actually saved by the native key values code. So they uses tabs instead of spaces. This means that it worked perfectly. I'm going to go ahead and just do a save now on a completely different map. Get rid of the magnifying glass again because it's annoying. I don't know, Arena Well, why not? And make sure that it doesn't do anything funky when I do a save. It should make a special section, but it shouldn't put anything in it. And that will be fine. Tabs are evil, don't use tabs. Why are tabs bad? Because your alignment does not necessarily match up with anyone else's alignment, and I'll show you what I mean by that, maybe, at some point. Okay, so unedit mode, save, and again, we're going to check that configuration. So CFG, respawn. I'm not going to zoom in on this one unless something weird happens. Arena Well, and indeed it's not there. It seems to me like it didn't save then. Oh, I don't think I prepared for, or I don't think I put in code for like what if this doesn't exist. I think I actually failed that. No, it says route map overlay, blah blah blah. I wonder why that worked, or didn't crash at least. I guess because there were no subkeys. I'm surprised it didn't make a blank section though. I should verify that the save actually worked, and the way that I'll do that is pretty straightforward. RM, CFG, respawn, map overlays, Arena Well. Yep, and if the save works, that file will come back exactly as it was. No, don't remove it a second time, you idiot. Yeah, it saved it. It just didn't... I guess it automatically won't make an empty section, which is fine. That's actually really clean, and I like that. I was just surprised because usually things don't work. They tend to not work. So I guess streaming on YouTube is my good luck charm. Get rid of that. I think I'm done with this change, actually, which is shocking to me. So disable trigger multiple hack in Mach 2. Let's just look at what this whole commit looks like. Does it make sense at all? That's fair. The code base for the thing I'm working on nowadays uses tabs as a standard, and I think beyond the engine cares about white space. White space is fine, but usually things that care about white space like Python use spaces because that's less stupid. Yeah, okay, everything in here looks fine. It ended up being a pretty small code change, and we're done here. And it's already been pushed up to my... because in order for it to build, it has to get pushed up to my GOGs, so we're good. We can start working on the next part. But yeah, tabs are... the only thing about tabs is people will often use a combination of tabs and spaces to align shit when they're in a tab-based code base. So... here's a good... well, or even ignoring that for a minute. Like, here's a good example of why this sucks. Oh, actually I should sync the configs back down so that way it has the tabs in it the way that it's supposed to. And that way it won't register as a change later. Okay, and stage, commit, extend, push, force, blah, blah, blah. And we look at this. So, like, obviously, the way that this is supposed to work is that every key is supposed to be aligned with every other key, and every value is supposed to be aligned with every other value, except that fails because depending on how many spaces your editor considers a tab to be, in this case Emacs I think considers it to be about, I don't even know, 8, I suppose, which is this, which sounds weird, but in some code bases it's actually standard to have 8 space indentations like Linux. So because of that, something that the code thinks would have been aligned is not aligned because, well, it's tabs. Nobody knows what aligned looks like. And since tabs just snap to the nearest, you get tabs that are sometimes not that large. Like this one's obviously like 4 spaces, and then this one's an 8 space one. In somebody's editor, maybe if I was on a 4 space editor, that would look aligned, and on mine it doesn't. So if it was in spaces, it would have been aligned everywhere. Beyond is a really weird engine. Every single thing is object-oriented, and every single thing is simulated server-side, which ends up actually working for the game. To be fair, every single thing is object-oriented is not uncommon for a lot of modern stuff. I was going to say game engines. Like Unity, you don't have a choice. It's all object-oriented. It's C#, it's like Java. Like you can't have things that aren't objects. So that's fine. Everything is simulated server-side. I think it makes sense. I've never really looked much into how simulations work in Source and like which parts are server side and which are client side and how the hell they agree with each other, but all I know is that if you turn your lerp way down, it doesn't work, and then you can cry about it. So I guess I'm going to have to get up onto the scary change, which is probably going to be at least a good solid 10 minutes of me just searching forums, which is what a lot of this ends up being anyway, trying to figure out how to access the healing array. So first things first, if this is really the correct healing array, and I think it is, let's see. Yeah, C object dispenser, pretty much everything that is a C object dispenser. I think that the C object map dispenser inherits from, so it's going to have healing array. I mean, whatever, it's just a dispenser, right? So here's my first crack at it, is to see if someone else has working code in source mod that touches this array in some way. And we are in a good place because we have 2 results, which almost certainly means no one's done this. Detecting if a player has been healed by a dispenser. I think I've seen this before, and I think I know exactly how this doesn't work. Maybe I'm wrong. Just an array, you can look through it, blah, blah, blah. What do I use for... Oh, right, for Breath of Life, the one that gives you air underwater if you're being healed. It doesn't care if you're a dispenser or not, so it doesn't do this. I haven't seen enemy dispenser healing spies. 2014, I'm pretty sure you did. Oh my god, people just being pretentious about spy logic. Does it have an offset value? Offset 0. Uh-oh. That spook. Balls. It's basically a round-based job simulator miniature MMO with paranoia and mafia elements on a space station. So having client-side cheating be fundamentally impossible because everything goes through the server benefits a lot. So it doesn't make client-side cheating impossible. Because everything in anything in every game, any multiplayer game goes through the server. The problem is that more often than not, the server gives the client more information than it strictly needs. So in Team Fortress 2, or in Minecraft, let's say, Minecraft's a good example. The server often serves up all the chunks that have diamond in it and the chunks that don't have diamond in it because it needs to draw the world, so it just gives it as much information as possible. I'm pretty darn sure TF2 gives you the locations of disguised enemy spies or invisible enemy spies because otherwise a collision with the enemy spies wouldn't work. So basically it's just the server telling the client more than it needs to know. That's where cheating comes in. And more often than not, you do need to tell the client more than it needs to know in order to do predictions accurately, depending on the game. Code's fun. So this might be a dead end. What is healing array? And why is it in quotes? I've never seen that before for a network property. So this is where we go to Source 2007 GitHub. And we see how it's declared, if it's declared differently than anything else. Oh lord, only 2 results. I've never seen anything else use this. This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun. What about this guy? Even drawing things on the screen goes through the server. Interesting. I guess if it's like 2D or something that could work. 3D wouldn't work. Ah, that's why you're using it. Now I understand entirely. What the hell is receive prop array 2? Are multiple things doing this? Is there something else that I can find? This is where we get like Sherlock Holmes. Is anything else that's like a popular variable using this that I could then search for? Team object array element. I don't know what the hell that means. Healing array element, object array element. I don't know. This is pretty spooky places that we're in right now. Yeah, they're just in dumps. No one appears to have successfully accessed any data in these in source mod. That sucks. Wow. Why is it different? So the main reason why I know it's not even worth trying is because each one of these things, each one of these net properties has an offset value, and that's basically where to find the data. And these things that got dumped have an offset of 0. So I don't see how you could possibly get to them. Everything else that's an array, by the way, kind of looks like this. Like m underscore flex weight, don't even know what that does. And it's like member 0, 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 blah. And then you can just access those however you like. But healing array is clearly different. So how do we use how does healing array? Because there might be another way to do this. How does healing array actually get used? Healing array element. It's the only place in the entire flipping game. Ah. Wow. I don't even know what the fuck this means. Because what I'm wondering now if I can do just a direct call to the object, the COBJES dispenser thing. Because that'd be pretty useful. This is the client, I don't care about that. How do I know? How does the game know? Well, I guess I could go and take a look at add healing target and see what that code looks like. Oh, I've used something like this before. That method looks very familiar to me. M underscore H healing targets. I presume this doesn't exist in net props. Of course it doesn't. Why would it? This particular data structure looks very familiar to me. Like, I think it's a Valve data structure. Okay, the fact that I can't, oh, I probably hit the wrong button. So how can I find it? How can I not find it when I copied it directly from here? See object dispenser. Ah, CUtil vector. Yes, yes, it is a Valve thing. Okay. This is now beginning to make sense to me. So internally, they're using this as a vector, which is, I don't really understand why. I don't understand how this works, but CUtil vector is basically used as like an open-ended array list that you can add things to, remove things from, search. Pretty sure there's something else that was a CUtil vector that I had to look at, maybe in source mod. Oh, I remember now, actually. I used to, when I was attempting to make spawn point spectatable, I was trying to keep a list of all the spawn points as spectating objects. So I actually used this class, I imported this class to work with it and just add onto the list. So the reason why they're doing this is presumably because they don't know what order anything would be in. I mean, you could do something really wasteful and just be like, yeah, I'm going to make an array of 32 players and have each one be true or false based on what they're healing, whether they're healing or not. But this one, I guess, is more memory efficient. So that is not something that the client understands, though, which is why this send proxy thing exists. And a send proxy function is basically like a function that translates, not translates, in this case it's translating, but it's usually a function that's taking information from the server and throwing it out to clients. So clearly they have to do some pre-processing before they send it back to clients, because you can't just throw in this this vector object across the network. It needs to be something else. So it sends the healing list. Yeah, converts from util vector to indices, so the actual IDs of each entity. Okay. Oh, this might have actually sunk my plan, or at least my initial way of doing the plan, but we'll see. So first we get the dispenser. If we know the dispenser, no. If this assertion fails, then send proxy array length healing array must have failed. So in other words, we should never get here. This should never be true. C-base entity I element. Where is I element being used here? Oh, it's calling into it as if it was an array. That's why. So it's saying like, okay, when you're going to call into this as if it were an array, call this method, and we're going to translate that into whatever's actually sitting at that location. Which kind of makes it questionable for me why this exists. I guess the point is that it could heal things that weren't players maybe at some point. So it was just like, whatever. We'll let it, we won't give it a fixed size. We'll let it be dynamic. So all it's doing is it's saying, hey, when you give me an element ID, I'm going to go ahead and translate that into a call to this util vector, and then get what's there, and then finally do a conversion from whatever data type is inside there to the entity index. So this is probably the entity, pointer to the entity itself, and it gets translated to the index. Like, hey, I'm player 2, or whatever. And then the client can make sense of that. So, no wonder why there's no way to get to it directly. This is not a traditional network property. It's actually sort of being dynamically created on the fly as clients need it. It's not just like some array or some value that's out there that clients get information from. It's basically virtual. So is there something I can call into on the dispenser itself and say, are you healing people? Or could I iterate through all the players and see what's healing them? But I'm pretty sure that would just tell me how many things are healing them, not necessarily whether a dispenser is healing them. Or even more to the point, what dispenser is healing them, which is what we really care about. Set model, blah, blah, blah. Detonate. See, take a look at this. These are some think functions, for an example. Like I was talking about before, how like Valve was just like, put it all on a timer. Even stuff like when dispensers decide to give you, or in this case, this is when the dispenser decides to put it, to refill its own metal. But even when the dispenser decides to give you stuff, it's happening on a timer. In fact, it's a real cheat too. So when the dispenser is not actually dispensing anything, it's constantly doing this think function once every 10th of a second, so that if no one's actually getting any health or ammo from it, and somebody, particularly ammo is really the trickier thing, because health is just continuous, ammo is on a timer. So it's constantly thinking 10 times a second. As soon as somebody gets ammo from it, it's like, oh, let me slow that down for you to 1 time a second. So by default, it'll go every 10th of a second. So take the current time, add a 10th to it. And somewhere in here is the code that says, oh yeah, here it is, FL next ammo dispense. Basically, if there were no nearby players and we didn't dispense, then set it to 0.1. And otherwise, we're only going to think once every second. And then that's how it slowly gives you ammo. That's where the second comes from. Your battery is running low. Well, screw you then. Not in the computer that I'm currently on. The computer I'm watching the stream on. That's going to be kind of tricky to deal with. I wonder why it's killing it so quickly. I don't know. I could probably move the location of this computer. Or I might actually just go grab its real honest-to-God power plug. That would probably make a lot more sense. Let me go do that real quick so I don't have to think about it. Even if I end up ending the stream, I just don't want to think about it. So, hold on. Burb. Okay, I'm back. So, I had to like cannibalize part of my living room there to get everything set up so I can not lose battery. Are think functions performance heavy? You are supposed to design them to not be. That's the point. The question that I have, and I think I have kind of an answer to this, is if everything is thinking every 100 milliseconds, and every single frame needs to arrive on time. Let's put it that way, right? Like, these frames need to happen quickly. If that is the case, why not just think on every single frame? I mean, if you're going to delay one frame, it's as bad as delaying all the frames anyway. Like, if you're delaying a frame every 10th of a second, you may as well just delay every frame. At that point, everybody would notice. And I think the theory behind that, according to my own logic, and this, I'm probably at some point going to come across some code that very much disproves this, is that I think that think functions are scheduled independently from one another. And I think that because of that, you're just kind of hoping that not everything is thinking on the same frame. So it kind of spreads things out a little bit. But yes, you're right. Fucking everything is running a think function. That is how a lot of TF2 works. And it's a lot less buggy than doing event-based things. It's just that in theory, you have this tenth of a second period where something might not work the way that you expect it to, but in practice it seems to never happen. So anyway, let's go back to seeing if I can find anything that says, hey, am I healing everybody? Just is healing target. That's not useful. I mean, I could iterate through every single yeah, I don't know. I'd have to iterate through every player and every spawn base and use is healing target to get anywhere near something good, and that just seems like madness because I don't care who you're healing. I just care whether you're healing. So before I go any further, no, wrong Ida. Not that. Whoa, where did my bar go? Okay. Let's look at the decompiler. And we'll see if there's any extra functions that have been added since this leak back in 2007. Oh, cool. I'm glad that didn't shrink. What the fuck? Yeah, my magnifier is like jacked up. One sec. Okay. There we go. Let's take a look at... Can't remember. C object dispenser. Drop spell pickup, drop duck pickup. Apparently dispensers can drop things. Dispense souls, get base health, can be repaired. Anything useful in here? Get heal rate. Oh yeah, because of course there was only one heal rate back in 2007. So obviously they would want to know. Here's another think function. Dispense ammo. That's what I'm hooking, by the way, to slow down dispensing, I think. Could heal target. Wow, this sucks. Yeah, I don't see anything that's really telling me. Am I healing anyone? Because, of course, why would the normal game give a shit about that? Only Arena Respawn gives a shit about that. So, that's going to be interesting. Because what I'm thinking of doing is instead of trying to do the same check as the dispenser, I'm just going to rely on the dispenser's check to see whether or not somebody's a valid healing target. And that's really it. I mean, I could use this function, could heal target. But if I'm doing that on every 100 milliseconds, I'm checking whether or not it could heal. Well, besides, why would I even use it could heal? Why don't I just use healing target? I have to check it against, for every single active spawn point, I have to check it against every single player. How expensive is that going to be? It's not really true, is it? Because I don't have to do it against every single player. I just have to do it until I find somebody that you are healing. And then I can just exit out, because as long as you're healing one person, that isn't a disguised spy. Okay, so there's a little bit to it there. I do have to care what they're... yeah, I do have to care who it's healing. It's a good point. Because I don't have disguised spies blocking that team's spawn point, which is a bit of a giveaway that they're a disguised spy, but the alternative is that you control your own team. That seems worse. So I could just iterate through the first 32 player slots and just check. That might be what I end up doing. So there's only one really awful case. So you always talk about your medium case, your best case, and your worst case, right? So my best case scenario is I iterate through, the first player is being healed, and I exit out immediately. They're not a disguised spy, and I exit out immediately. So that's O1. My worst case is ON, which is I've gone through all 32 player slots and I can't find anyone being healed, which is the common case. And the median case is just 16. That's not bad. It's not super clean, but it's probably as good as I'm going to get without having direct access to the actual array. Even then, I'd probably just be iterating through the array, so... Well, yeah, but then I could know how large the array is. If the array is 0, then I don't have to know. Can I get the number of healing targets? Is that anywhere? I don't think so. Darn. Because it'd be really good to know, like, hey, is this 0? If it's 0, I don't care. This is more of a feature request than an option, which is good because, I mean, this is where we're at with development. What if disguised spies appeared to block points but actually didn't? Spy code's actually really easy. As it turns out, being disguised is just having a condition added to you, and then you have a network property, and the network property tells you what you're disguised as. Working with spies is actually very simple, and I think it's by design because otherwise Valve would have like shot themselves. However, that now means that we're breaking the contract to the player, and that contract says that if you see a bubble, then you won't be able to cap over this. And if we have a case in which you can have a bubble and you can cap over it, we're communicating the wrong thing. That's my particular take on that. So I'm going to go ahead and try and use this function, which is where things get really fun. Alright, so we get to add in a brand new function to the, and this has to happen on the extension, of course. What's it under? I can't even remember the name anymore. Oh my god, what's the name of the file? Game data. Respawn game data. So, I've already added a number of functions, and this is just going to be another one. Which I guess makes me very sensitive to any of these functions being updated, but what are the odds of that, really? This one can probably go away. This was back when we had balance rules and we would drop health packs. This one I don't remember why we have it. CBase entity set transmit state. It's probably a reason. Can change level. Obviously I want to hold levels from changing. Give ammo. Remove ammo. So track when people are using ammo and change the amount. Dispenser dispense ammo, obviously. Enter pregame. That didn't work as well as I thought it did, but basically it tells me when the round enters a particular state. Stock HUD notification, I use that to block the flag messages and put in my own. Fire named output, fires an entity output. Timer may expire. It's the most recent one that was to handle overtime and make sure we don't go into overtime when we have a the winning team has a core. Shouldn't go into overtime. Only if it shows the bubble to the friendly team. Remember that friendlies don't see spies being the wrong color. If the bubble only showed up to enemies, there'd be less confusion. But the enemy team would be confused regardless. The enemy team would be the ones that would be most annoyed by that. Because they would say something like, oh my god, there was a bubble there and somebody capped over it. Broken game, lol. Theoretically, I think there's ways to do that, to display the entity only to the one team. Like, it's not impossible to do. I'm not trying to, like, avoid work. I'm just thinking, like, that would be really annoying to the other team. It's kind of analogous to a spy can't block a point capture. I mean, to be fair, there's no visual indication that there's a spy there or whatever. But if somebody else is capping a point and the spy's on there, disguised as the opposite team, it doesn't block the capture. I know it's less of a... That's really less of a giant flag up saying, oh, I'm a spy, because you can't see a giant bubble, but It's the same idea. What you could do as a spy player is just know not to approach unless somebody else is there, or hope that they don't see the bubble or something. I do wish there was a cleaner solution. I just don't see a way of doing it without making the game mode more confusing. But I'm definitely willing to take suggestions. There's no way to go about it that doesn't break consistency for someone. Yeah, that's basically the problem. So what is the name of this stupid function? Is healing target. And all this is not Windows compatible. I'm glad I don't think anybody else is going to actually end up hosting this anyway. Because otherwise it'd be a nightmare. Like, oh, you gotta support Windows, you gotta support this, you gotta support that. So we copy the signature name and we put in this @ symbol for reasons I don't understand, and we paste it, and we paste it in the wrong place and put the quotes in the wrong spot. There we go. So now I just need to make my extension aware that, hey, this is a function and we're gonna do stuff with it. So in this case it would be not a detour, but a call. What else do we have that does that? I don't know if we do. Because we mostly have detour functions, fire named output. I have to make a new native. I would have to make a new native, that's what it is. That would then call this function. Fire named output's actually a perfect example of that. Okay. I call wrapper, yeah. This is the most fun. I'm glad you get to see this part, because this is where we actually get to do a Valve native call. And it's the worst thing ever. Alright, so this is going to be called dispenser, whatever the fuck it is healing target. It's a long ass name, but at least I won't get confused. So then we have to go add it into the native section. The native section says this is what I'm going to expose to the source mod plugin context. So I'll say something like, I don't know. Yeah. Because if I just say is healing target, and that's vague AF. God, this is gonna suck. I'm glad I've done something like this before, because otherwise I'd bubble through it even harder. So, oh, before I forget, if I don't put it in this include file, it also doesn't work for some reason. So I'd rather get this done now, so I don't forget it. So we say, checks if dispenser this the index of dispenser and param entity the index of target. I'm not gonna call it entity, it's a dumb name. I'm gonna call it target. And I'm gonna walk through this one because it's gonna be real fun. Return true if dispenser is healing target. And we get to make up a new function. Native bool dispenser is healing target. Int dispenser int target. That's all I have to do in source pawn. Now we get to go back to C++, my favorite. So you look at all this effing code. This is what we're gonna have to do basically. This sucks. Alright, I'm gonna full screen this actually and split it so I can see what I'm doing and reference what I've done before. Cell T dispenser is healing target. I plug in context and const cell T params. So in other words, what parameters got passed in from the source mod virtual machine. If this is a pattern that is used elsewhere in the source mod code, so I'm just kind of sticking with it. So basically, if this isn't set, because we've only set it to null before, we need to actually instantiate it. So first we say, okay, we're going to make an address pointer. And this address pointer is going to point to where the function is located in memory. Fortunately, there's ways to find that out. So we're going to look at the game configuration, which is the file I was editing earlier, and get the memory signature called. Dispenser is Dispenser is healing target. Oh, great. Doesn't capitalize it. Thanks, Emacs. And put it in the address pointer. So if that didn't work, or if the address was not set, we error out and say return p context throw native error. Dispenser is healing target not supported by this mod. I'm a lot less strict about the 80 character limit in the C++ part because I haven't really... There's a lot more to do. There's a lot more to clean up in the C++ part than the source mod part, and most people are not going to be looking at this anyway. But also, you don't want to split up error messages. I wonder if I could just... Shut up. Can I split this? Will Emacs understand? Yeah, but it looks dumb AF. This or that. It's really dumb. Should really get broken up into another line somewhere. This one I think I could probably get away with just doing that. It's not very exciting. Okay, so whatever. So at this point we've now loaded in the address of the function. Now we get to tell source_mod what is going to get passed into this function. In this case it's going to be one thing. Technically. Pass 0. I really wish it would just like follow me as I'm typing, but whatever. Type equals pass type basic. In other words, it's probably just going to be an integer. Size of the pointer to the CBase entity. For some reason it doesn't take a player, it takes a CBase entity. Then we attempt to initialize the call. God, this is ugly. I think the next one's the return value, which it does have a return value. Why does it have 3 parentheses over there and I only have 2 here? Oh. I really just don't like this way of coding at all. It's ugly AF. I don't think I can split that there, can I? Maybe I can. You can tell the difference between when I'm comfortable in a language and when I'm just trying to code to get something done. And this is very much the latter. I'm not comfortable with source mod utilities at all. Because there's really like F-all documentation on this stuff. Because there's very few people that bother. The code base is really nice. There's a lot of examples. Like it's a lot better than it could be. And I certainly don't blame the source mod guys for this because they've got a lot of other shit to work on. And they probably don't want to like come out with like super easy official support for this kind of thing because there's a lot more you can break. People should be focusing more on the source mod part itself, not this part. Oh, to be fair, you have to have a decompiler and all this other shit ready, so how many people are really going to bother? Don't know. So, whatever. At this point, we now have a valid... we now have the ability to call the function, but we have nothing to call it with. So now we get to have some real fun. CBase entity. There's 2 CBase entities going on here. One of them is the C object dispenser itself, and the other one is the one that we're checking it against. How do I get... Oh, I don't know. Fuck it. I'm just going to run with it. I think that I'm going to declare them both as CBase entities and see if it blows up at me. By the way, this is the part where it will crash the server if I get this wrong. So, and it crashes and it's completely unhelpful. So then I have to stare at the code and just say, oh, what's wrong with it? P dispenser. Learn to spell. P target. Huh. This is not a high IQ situation. This is more of a high patience situation. All right. So now we have to say source mod's passed in two parameters, both of which are integers. Neither of them are actually references to entities. Fortunately, there are all these helper functions that help take an entity index and come back with a reference. So we get to do p dispenser equals game helpers reference to entity params1. I think it's params1. I think they start from 1 for some reason. Hope I'm not wrong about that. Pretty sure I'm right. And we do this again, but with p target, and that'll be the second parameter. So now we should have two pointers to two entities, the dispenser and the target. And this is where shit gets real. So I have to actually stuff all this stuff into memory and then pass that in as a stack, like a full chunk of memory, into the call with all of the parameters the same way and spaced out the same way that they would be as if another part of TF2 was doing the call. If you see what I mean, we're imitating TF2 doing the call. So unsigned char vstk for valve stack. Size of the void pointer, because that's going to be the first thing that gets put into the stack is the object we're calling this on. In this case, it's the pointer to the dispenser plus the size of cbase, a cbase entity pointer, which is the same as the size of a void pointer, but I'm just being explicit, I guess. Unsigned char v ptr. So this means I have initialized basically a chunk of memory is how you really would think about it. That is the size of one void pointer and one pointer to a cbase entity. And now I've initialized a second variable that is pointing to the beginning of the memory that is initialized by this line. So now we get to start putting some shit on it. I don't entirely know what the syntax means because pointers are complicated, but it looks like this. So we assign pdispenser to the memory address currently at the valve pointer. Then we need to increase the valve pointer by the size of a void pointer, which is where the dispenser is now taking place. We don't want to just overwrite that memory. Now we've increased it by like 8 bytes or whatever it is, or 8 bits. No, 4 bytes. And we're going to go and assign something else to it. In this case, it's going to be a cbase entity of the target. And we don't have to increase the pointer location any further than that because we don't care about v pointer anymore. We're now just going to pass in all the information from the current location of vstk vstack onwards, and then through magic that'll work. So we just have to do g dispenser is healing target, which is this already prepared valve call, and we see execute using valve stack. Oh right, I need to get a return value from this. That's kind of the whole point. Oh, Lord. So over here in create call, I previously put in null, and I'm not sure if that's right. So let's go do some Googling. GitHub source mod create call. Yeah, whatever. Just do it here. Can't remember what null is. iCall wrapper is what I want. Might be this one. It's definitely this one. Address, calling convention, return info. Oh, I do care about return info. I've never done that before. Yay! Have to do all that. Number of parameters and any extra flags. Extra flags. Oh, I just usually don't assign it to anything, so it defaults to 0. Okay. So we need to figure out how to pass in return info. Easiest way, find something else that's doing it. Let's do that. Okay, so we have to initialize a new pass info object called, well, in this case they're calling it ret data, and I like that because it's return data. So I'm going to probably do exactly the same thing. This comes earlier, so I'm going to put it before the parameter data. It's a Boolean, so it'll be the size of a Boolean. Don't know why I have to pass it by reference, but okay. That's how it's specified over here, so it needs a pointer to ret info instead of just copying it. Don't entirely know why. We're going to run with that though. And now I just need to have a return value over here. So we say bool ret. Is that how it would? Yeah, bool ret basically. Then we pass in ret by reference. And now ret should be set to either true or false. However, due to funny, source mod uses this weird cell, or I guess, or source pawn, or maybe pawn in general uses this weird cell data type, which is really just like a tagged integer for some reason. So if I return a bool, it will not see that as an integer. So basically, if ret, this is so dumb, but if ret, so if it's true, we return 1, and else we return 0. Hella stupid, but it has to be an integer. Seems like a big waste to me. I guess I don't have to do it this way. I could do an inline if statement and make it slightly less awful. Return ret question mark. If this, then 1, otherwise 0. I think that'll work. So now we're done. Fingers crossed this will even remotely work. The only way I'm gonna know that is I have to actually call it somewhere. So I'm gonna do something that's just gonna spam the crap out of my logs, I think. I don't know. It's kind of tricky. Maybe I should just go all in and make all the code changes that I need to make. And then if they all work at the same time, I'll know that we're fine. If the server crashes, I know that this went wrong. If something else goes wrong, then I know this didn't go wrong and something else is wrong with my logic. So in theory, I could just suck it up and do the rest of it now. So we go to spawn bases, and I used to have a spawn base protection think, but it wasn't really a think function. I just kind of called it that because it was being called from multiple locations. And what it's doing is that every time that something would change, like somebody started touching, stopped touching, in this case died, whatever, I would trigger this function and say, hey, just make sure it's still protected, or check if it's going to become protected or not. And I was keeping track of all the healing, of the players that were healing on it, you know, manually. We're going to kill this whole thing because it's useless. I mean, if has healers and is protected. So I guess, I mean, I'm gonna kill where it's being called from, maybe? Maybe I'll just replace the logic and see how far we can get. So first we need to know if it's currently protected, which is fine. I'm going to leave this being event-based for now, but then I'm going to make this every 100 milliseconds if it works. So there's no sense in going even further than I need to. And this is where it changes. I'm not going to do this healing players thing. I'm already looping through max clients, so this isn't really going to be any more expensive. Just so happens I'm doing this a bit differently now. So from 1 to the number of players. Before I was just checking a simple array. Well, guess what? That's not happening anymore. I just realized I did all that complicated bullshit. I'm pretty sure I could have just done it through SDK tools instead of making a native function. Fuck it. Yeah, it wouldn't have entirely worked anyway. I'll come back to that. It's more finicky in a way that way. So I need the entity index of the dispenser. If not base get value dispenser. Is that what I called it? I think I did. If this doesn't exist, then just return. Something's terrible has gone wrong. So now we have a valid reference to the dispenser. Dispenser is healing target. Oh god, something's wrong here. Something's unbalanced in number of parentheses, otherwise I wouldn't be doing that weird indentation. Or maybe I was using wrong indentation before. Whatever. If dispenser is healing target, and we're going to say dispenser and then I, because it's going to be the entity we're currently checking. We say has healers true, break, and the rest of the logic that I've previously written should continue to work. So we're going to put a big ol' to do. Don't consider spies. Don't consider disguised enemy. Wow. Valid. F it. Let's see what we get. Stage, commit, and we say change dispenser protection logic to use native function. Healing array, because that's essentially what we're doing. Doesn't really matter because it probably isn't going to work. So let's go ahead and see what happens when we build it. It's definitely going to error out. The question is why? Because we changed way too much at once for this to work. I'm so glad that the music solution is working, because otherwise I would be losing my mind right now. Holy fuck, it built. It actually built. That does not mean it's going to work, but it does mean that it built. Because this builds both the plugin and the extension at the same time, which has been a tremendous help, by the way. I'm so glad that I've done that. But, yeah. Is it weird that I pronounce commit as comet in my head when dealing with Git, if only for the fact that plural commits sounds weird? I feel like I've known someone else who did that. It might have been you mentioning it previously, though. But I will say yes, it is weird. Because it's commit. You're committing changes. I wonder if is my computer actually able to charge now? Yeah, it is charging when it's got the correct charging cable. That's helpful. I was charging my computer off of my tower, which is like mad science. Wow, I really don't know what to expect going into this. I expect failure. I just don't expect... Probably more than likely we're going to see a server crash. There's probably something wrong with my logic to actually call the function. That tends to be what happens. I usually get that wrong. I am everyone in your life, Hawk. Thank God that's not true. Problem with development streams is that unless you're doing something very simple, there's really no way to make them entertaining. Like if I was doing something simple, if I was setting up like a web server, something I've done and know about before, I could easily narrate and give like all sorts of interesting information the whole time. I can't really do that when I'm experimenting with new stuff that I've never seen before, and there is no reasonable way to know about beforehand.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fight to the death.
This is entertaining. I'm enjoying it a lot, actually. Appreciate that. I mean, to be honest, I think that I'm of the personality that I would enjoy watching something like this. But yeah, it's like, if I link this into the chat, they're probably just going to be like, what is this? Why'd you do this? Okay, this is where we're going to server crash. Get ready.
Yeah, it's ours now.
No, I can fire. I can fire. That means I'm not server crashing. Oh, that's interesting. Thinks I'm still being healed. Or, well, remember, I haven't scheduled it to work every 100 milliseconds yet.
Mission ends in 10
So, it's probably stopping checking. Probably some race condition with, like, when it checks whether or not I'm being healed and when it considers me to stop as no longer touching it. Might be worth giving it a go anyhow. Right now, not right now if you don't want. Well, it's going to get archived, so I'm saying like I could easily just show it to people afterwards. That's what's nice about YouTube. And I also thought YouTube could handle 11,000 bits per second, but apparently not. So that was going to be really cool too. Just open the floodgates and have it figure it out. But apparently it doesn't like that. Okay, so. Unbelievably, we've actually had success. I genuinely can't believe that, but here we are. So now we get to take all the places where I'm calling this sucker and rip them out. And we'll see how far we get with that, I guess. I must be missing something. Oh, let me get the magnifying glass back on. Oh, I'm getting at TF2. Duh. This isn't going to take that. It's not going to be that short of a time. Alright. Let's see what we got. So we're calling it in basically all these, yeah, stop healing player. See, all this stuff, it was event-based before. Wonder if the skips will still be there when I save the thing, or whether YouTube will have caught up by then. I don't know. Yeah, this spawn-based touch function, you're gone. I'm not doing anything on touch anymore. Screw that. End touch, nope, don't give a crap. So anything that involves healing players. Oh, there's so many things I can get rid of now. That's like checking if a spawn base is healing a player. Guess what? We have a different function for that now. Set healing. I probably do care about that. Probably. Because this is what's setting the overheal. Which really should be called set overheal then. This is also where the spies aren't getting the heal done correctly. Spawn base set healing. Where am I calling that piece of crap from? I don't know. Probably something important. That's gonna, you know, that should be a separate thing function now that I'm thinking about it. It should just be looking at every single person, checking whether or not they're being healed by another dispenser, and then setting the player flags accordingly. Yeah, it's going to be a bit expensive, but it's not terrible. Maybe I could do it during the protection thing instead. Because I don't want to iterate through everybody twice. I think that's obnoxious AF. Oh boy. Where am I setting that? Yeah, this doesn't need to go anywhere. This can go away too. This was getting around the death problem. Where it's like, oh, somebody died, but they're still being healed. Well, okay, then I'll explicitly take them out when they're dead. See, set healing. It should really be set overheal. Tricky, 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 tricky. where am I going to do that? Not here, that's for sure. I should probably do it all in its think function. I should just not call it protection think anymore. I should just call it, like, it should just be part of the think function. That's the only way that's going to work. Yeah. There's a telefrag code. Lol. I don't know. Protection think. Where was I? Is anything else calling protection think? No, it's not. So instead we're going to use the overall think function. So I'm also sticking under to do here like I can't do it from the I can't do the overheal part. Let me ask you this question, self. Why did we even bother doing overheal as like this other, like it's like a property of a player? Was it just because I was concerned about doing it as an on-frame check? And maybe I don't need to do it as an on-frame check anymore? In fact, why not just like, while I'm looking at all the things that the dispenser's healing, why don't I just increase the overheal at that time instead of doing it on frame? So to do overheal shit. Just overheal. So no more has healer's true break. Because that's actually, well, set it to true but don't break. Because we're going to iterate through every single person no matter what. And we're going to handle their overheal here. So we're actually ripping out a massive part of the logic that I've never ripped out before. There's a lot to do. So we might break overheal for a little bit while we're working on this, and that's fine. And yeah, this comment's in the right place. Don't we want to not consider disguised enemy spies valid for this check, but we want to consider them valid for overheal. Okay, lots of fun. Let's continue. Somewhere in here I think I have a think function anyway. Spawn-based think, which is enormous. Oh, this is what handles the timer. Right, I put the timer in the think function. That's why the timer doesn't screw up anywhere near as much as other functions do. Like, yeah, we had the problem with the capture in progress issue, where it was getting held when it didn't need to. But other than that, we never really had a time where a timer just didn't show up. That's because I'm checking for it every 100 milliseconds. That's the reason why it's so consistent. Oh, for God's sake, this is every spawn-based thinking. This is poorly named. Yeah, we're iterating through each spawn base and doing a think. Okay. So I'm going to stick the brand new spawn base protection think in here. To be honest, this, if I could rewrite this to look object oriented the way that source mod's doing other things, it'd be really cool. I guess then I could just do like base dot protection think or something, or base dot think. But this will get me off the ground for now. I just ripped out a bunch of codes, so I'm assuming something's gonna not work. I really hate when the clicking doesn't work for Concourse. Should really just move to Jenkins. Coming up on 2 hours 15 minutes. I think probably 15 more minutes and I should stop and like do something fun with my life. And also see how the stream came out, like in terms of whether or not YouTube was able to keep up with it. Yeah, okay, I knew there was going to be problems. Oh, right, I forgot to get rid of all the touch functions, because I hooked all the touch functions. Don't need those anymore. All this crap we don't need, because it was super inconsistent to begin with. There we go. Triggered again. Gotta drink my Soylent while this is happening. Love me some Soylent. Not as good as Chipotle, though. Yeah, look at all these things that were no longer used here because we got rid of these functions. That's okay. Spawn-based territory. Well, that's going to be because of the healing. Symbol is assigned a value that's never used. Blah, blah, blah. We don't care. Lots of things I need to get rid of. What's the actual problem? Spawn-based master, stop healing player. Oh, get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. This is how you know that the approach you're taking is probably correct. If it means that you have to get rid of all of this hacky code in one fell swoop, generally that means that you're going to a more consistent place, which I've been doing a lot of for Arena Respawn. I've been deleting a lot of code, and the actual game mode's only gotten like more solid in terms of logic over time, so it's a good sign is what I'm trying to say. The fact that I'm deleting like a shit ton of code that was all this special case, like, oh, if they're dead, do this, and if they touched it here, then do that, and whatever. Don't need any of that. Successful build. See whether or not it's successful, like, see if it actually works. Yeah, whatever. Builds are getting faster, which is nice. Of course, I say that, and we're stuck in pending state, but that's fine. Okay, let's see what we get. What am I gonna get? If I can get this working, I mean, I'm gonna have to port all the overheal code. That's obviously a problem. Although, again, the overheal code is going to be a lot more solid now. But I still have to change it. If I can do that, that's like 2 very large and 1 minor success in one go. Because I will have edited the health for Mach 2. I fixed Mach 2's triggers. Hopefully this will fix a lot of the spawn point inconsistencies, like when it decides to heal you versus when there's a protection shield.
Death is stupid.
Archon bot, Archon bot, Archon bot. So this will actually be like a massive amount of work that got done in the last 2 hours and 17 minutes.
Fight to the death.
Eat my dust.
It's just like looking around like, oh no, did I mess up a
We have taken the enemy reactor
health kit? I mean a ammo kit, but no, they're all medium. Server crash?
I got it.
Okay.
captured the enemy reactor.
Oh, look at that. From a native function. The native function telling me whether or not somebody's being healed or not. I get to determine whether or not we get a protection shield. It's exactly the same code. No more trying to replicate it. No more of any of that crap. Just straight up, hey, are you being healed? Yep. Alright, awesome. Oh, that is amazing. If I can just finish it up with the overheal code. That might burn my brain a little bit too much for now, but we'll see. See how far I get. This overheal is kind of weird. Even in standard TF, it's kind of weird. Like, you'll notice every once in a while when you're being healed by a medic, it will flicker between, like, I don't know, if I'm a scout, it might flicker between 185 and 184 or whatever. That's because the game is always, it's always going through an overheal decay state, even when you're being healed. It's just that the amount that you're being healed is greater than the overheal decay, so it's kind of wonky. So I can't remember how I calculated the original healing rate. That's going to be fun to figure out. What the hell did I do? On-game frame. This also means I can get rid of some on-game frame logic, which is always bad. Don't like on-game frame logic, but of course I always thought that think functions were bad, so I put more stuff in here than really needs to be. A lot of it's very optimized in terms of like it's not doing very computationally complex things for obvious reasons because it's on-game frame, but the more I can get out of here, the better. So here it is. That's actually why I tracked this as just a flag to make sure that I wasn't doing any complicated calculations to determine whether somebody needs to be overhealed or not. Oh god. Max buff, heal rate. Oh right, the heal rate that I picked was the heal rate of the dispenser. So I didn't have to care about overheal rates. I just continued what it already had. Interesting. If I wanted to get really fancy, I could probably use the native function that tells me what the healing rate is of the dispenser, but I don't think that's going to change, so I don't think I'm going to do that. Yeah, literally get heal rate, that's what it's called. Holy crap, look at that. Great minds think alike, I guess. Molt dispenser rate. Just wondering what it returns as. Doesn't even tell me. Jerk. And I don't know enough of this assembler shit to understand exactly what it returns as. I'm guessing an integer, because I don't see any floating points nonsense going on in here. But honestly, I'm mostly just staring at this, not totally understanding it. Anyway, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to call this function. All this worked for something that's a very well-established fact anyway. Who cares? Okay, so how do I want to do this? In the same spawn-based think function, I'm going to say, hey, if you're being healed, and the buff type for this base is whatever, you know, half heal or full heal, then we're going to do this shit. Oh yeah, I did all this heal fraction stuff. I think it's actually in the code somewhere. I based some of this off of TF2 stuff, but I don't think it's really worth keeping. Yeah, it's just an entity set health call. Very exciting stuff. If I need to bring this back in, I'll bring it back in, but whatever. If health is greater than max buff, health is... Where health is max, let's continue. New HP equals round of floor. Oh, that's what happened. Okay, so I think I remember what's going on with this now. So, and I'm pretty sure I got this from the TF2 code as well, the source 2007 leak code. Health is represented as an integer. That's all well and nice, except that when we're doing heals every 10th of a second, we're not doing full heals. You know, like in a 10th of a second, you're not necessarily getting 1 HP. You might be getting 0.5 HP. So I have to have an integer that, God, what a pain. I have to have a floating point variable that keeps track of whatever is the until it gets rounded up to the next like 1 HP. So like on one frame it might be 0.2, one frame might be 0.2, and then like 3 frames later it might be, oh, it's 1.0. Okay, great. Set heal fraction back to 0, and then increase the player's health by 1. Probably gonna have to do the same thing. That being said, I am wondering why I did this in on-game frame, and whether or not I did this in on-game frame because Valve did that and I wanted to match Valve, or because I was stupid. So we're going to go into the Source 2007 leak again and take a look at how overheal works. And I'm pretty sure I named this after a function or a variable in the Source 2007 leak, so it'll be pretty easy to find. I love this leak so much. I mean, you could figure this out from assembler and learning how to read all that stuff, but this is a million times faster and actually gives you some idea of the intent of the code as well as just what it's doing. Okay, nothing matching heal fraction. Okay. Let's see, I've got it cloned in locally. It's actually so useful to do this. It has made me wonder whether or not this leak was intentional. Because it really gives a lot of the ability, you know, it gives a lot of power to modders to have this information out there. While at the same time, not really necessarily being, like, nobody's going to take this source engine leak and go make TF2 2007 because who cares? It's moved on since then. Anyway. Yes. I do, there, it is called heal fraction. FL heal fraction because they're using Polish notation. But regardless, the same ideas here. Very But when did they do this? So it's in TF player shared. Let's go take a look at that. Oh, it's player class, idiot. Somebody made a TF2 1.0 group, but that's not the same as this code base. And if I'm not completely mistaken, somebody made like a TF2 classic or something. I don't know if they based it off this code base, so that would be a massive problem if they did. So they probably did it as a, just did it off the SDK or something. But then again, they are using all the models and all that other stuff too, so like how much worse would it be if they stole the code? They're already like in big legal trouble as it is. Dispensers, blah blah blah. If we're being healed, heal ourselves. I love that. So when does this condition game rules think? Oh, isn't that funny? Wouldn't it be really funny if this was happening every 100 milliseconds and I was actually being even more particular than Valve was? Well, I think that I usually in think functions they set the next think time somewhere in here. Somewhere. Yeah, see, if B decay health, if we're not getting buffed, put our health variance back to our max, blah 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 blah. Very interesting stuff. Lots of pretty low level TF2 shit happening in here. Hey, tons. I just want to know how often this function is called, because if this is only called every 10th of a second, then I have every right to only do this a 10th of a second myself. So unhelpful. It's got to set the next think time here somewhere though. Or it's got to be called from somewhere. Oh, tempted to just YOLO it, to be honest. Frame time. No, it's happening once per frame. Because otherwise I wouldn't give a shit about frame time. So, that's the case, I should probably keep my code where it is and set those player flags somewhere else that makes some semblance of sense. That's pretty easy, isn't it? I could just set all the player flags to 0 at the start of the think function and then set them as needed inside the think. Yeah. Okay, let's do that then. Screw that. Screw adding all this, screw moving all this shit. I am gonna just set these exact flags that I've used before. Why not? Gotta go find... Oh, my old logic's literally sitting right up above me. Set healing. So we know we're healing if we're here. We just don't know what we're healing. If spawn base buff type base equals buff type half, so it's half over here. We say player flags player, and we add player base overheal and also the special flag player half overheal. So I should probably explain what I mean by flags. Although, to be fair, Kilo, if you are familiar with game development at all, you probably already know them. All it is doing, it's setting bits, right, in a piece of data. So each of these is assigned a different bit. So it might be the leftmost bit is, you know, player base overheal, and the next leftmost bit is player half overheal. So it comes out as a, when it comes out as an integer that's a combination of a bunch of powers of 2, and it can only be one combination of a bunch of powers of 2. So you can do all these bitwise comparisons and additions, which is what the what this fellow here is doing. The pipe equals, in other words, basically you're doing an OR. You're saying add this onto the bit mask that's already there, and there's another one that will remove one, and if you want to test if one's even in there, you just do a simple and it just says, okay, if this bit's flipped, then I'm going to treat this as that. It's about the fastest comparison you could possibly do, which is why I have no problem with doing this for on-game frame. And all of these variables are being set to some power of 2, which is defined earlier in my code, but I don't care what power of 2 they are as long as they're a consistent power of 2. Who gives a shit? And then don't consider disguise enemy spies invalid. Oh, you know what? This is going to solve my spy problem too, because all I'm saying is if dispenser is healing target, if it's being healed, and basically it's just going to check. It's not checking the player team at all. It's just saying, hey, are you being healed? If you're being healed, then hey, is this base supposed to give you full or half? If it's supposed to give you full or half, it sets the things accordingly. Well, I still have to change the has healers thing. So, what's the fastest way of figuring that one out? So we need to know if the spy is in the opposite team and in the disguised condition. But we don't know what team this base is on. I'd have to go get that. It's not that bad. Let's do it. If spawn base underscore owner, I think. Base. God. This is going to be a nasty condition. Is enemy. Actually, we only care if it's an enemy. We don't care if they're disguised. Because the only way you're ever going to get healed is if you're a disguised spy. Oh, this is going to be so easy, actually. Get client team I. So basically, if you're not on the same team, or if you are on the same team, we say yes, this base has healers. So therefore, protection will be enabled. Oh, that solves so many things. Only one problem. Get client team, for whatever reason, does not come back as a TF team object. It comes back as a integer, which I hate. Do I have something that does this for me? Client team, there it is, client team. So if I do this function instead, it's going to give me the same information. It's just going to give it back to me in a format that won't trigger a warning, because this is just casting it, kind of a poor term, but casting it to a TF team, which is good. So all I have to say now is, if the owner of the base is equal to the team the client is on, then we consider this to have healers for protection purposes later on down the line. All it's missing is to clear out these flags at the beginning of the think function. So we go to spawn base underscore think, which again is really poorly named because it's actually all the spawn base is thinking, but when I come back here and I make everything object oriented, like I'm going to solve that problem. Right. So before we get there, we need to clear out all player stuff. Clear player overheal flags for int I equals. Oh my god, I never checked whether or not they're valid clients. Should you do that? This is really important. If is valid client I, because if it's not a valid client, then it's just going to error out and be like, what are you talking about? Well, technically, I don't care if they are or not in this case. No, I don't want to paste yet, because I want that. My favorite Doctor Who track is playing, but nobody can hear it. Okay. So I don't care whether you're a valid client or not, because you're just an array, and I don't care about that. So clear. That's beautiful. Okay. God, this actually, there's even more problems I think it solves, but whatever. Don't need to do set healing anymore. That's gone and dead. Whoopsie. Deleted a bit too much there. Was a bit hasty. Oh, I think this is going to do it. I think this is just going to work. This is going to be awesome. I'm sure there's still going to be some problem where it's like it should be healing when it's not or whatever. And somebody's going to get capped over and be mad or whatever, but fuck it. Oh, whoa. What did I click on? Don't want to click on that. This is awesome. Sorry, I was just looking at something silly in YouTube. Errors. Awesome, errors. Undefined simple player. Yeah, that's pretty important. Yeah, because I don't call it a player here, do I? I really should call it client or something. It's kind of annoying. A lot of people in source spawn use just I. That's annoying to me. And I think I did it somewhere else too. 1340. Yeah, again, I'm calling a player. It's not a player. So first of all, standardize on client here. Oh. Okay, that's a good start. And if not is valid, client, continue. In other words, just go another loop. We don't want to do any. I don't know what would happen if I attempted to call dispenser is healing target on a non-valid client, and I don't want to find out. Invalid clients are clients that are disconnected, or are bots. Well, not, actually, no, sorry. Bots are fine. Basically, clients that aren't connected. So, can't do stuff to people that aren't connected. Oh, and it excludes replay and source TV. You never want to do anything on those guys. Because yes, of course, those two things are considered clients. Don't know why. Oh, come up to 3 hours. Undefined symbol I. Yeah, I forgot it somewhere, didn't I? 336. Yeah, I forgot it in the most important part, where we're checking whether or not the dispenser heals. Funny. Gotta keep remembering to use my mouse. It's like the most anti-Unix thing ever. Use your mouse to navigate. I'm definitely stopping at the 3 hour mark because I can't think for this long. The fact that this is working still is a miracle. And then I really will have... Was there anything else I wanted to do? Oh, the estimated respawn time when dead. Actually, I'm going to change that to not just be estimated respawn time. I'm going to have it be a message that tells you where you are in the queue. So it's like, oh, you're the 4th person to be respawned or whatever, you're 4th in queue. And then when you're the 1st person in the queue, then it will tell you your estimated respawn time. Because otherwise, what I think is going to happen is people, when they play this and they are communicating with one another, they're going to want to know who's going to spawn first and who's going to spawn second. And it's going to be obnoxious to be like, oh, I'm going to spawn in 35 seconds, so that means I'm 3rd. Like, it's just mental overhead you don't need. More than likely you care more about where you are in the queue than your actual literal spawn time. More than likely. We close magnifier. Did this trigger yet? Hurry up. 46 seconds ago. Oh, it's so fast. Got faster as I went for some reason. Not complaining. That's what I'm saying, is I'm saying, well, I want to tell them where they are in the queue. Because as it is right now, you have no concept of when you're going to be respawned. I mean, if you're paying a lot of attention, you'll know, but it's annoying because you don't know. Only tell people their timer if they're first in the queue. That is what I'm planning on, though. That part's true. Alright, let's see how we did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's do it. To it. Actually, this was not a great map to do this on because there are no neutral points, so I'll have to switch to off blast if this works at all. No biggie.
Yes, we have taken the enemy reactor core.
Okay, so anything on this side won't give me overheal anyway, so it's not very useful. I could just cap that one, but I don't know. I'm getting, what's the word I'm looking for? Getting superstitious about things now. Sorry, I'm like also checking for screen tearing while I'm going. Nope, I'm not screen tearing. Ah. Okay, it's overhealing me, look at that.
The enemy reactor core.
That's honestly boss-like. I can't believe that is working. I cannot, it's all the same condition now, it's beautiful. Alright, so Archon, change level, Arena,
Point enabled.
off blast, final. Because then I can check the neutral point. And then I'll do a quick little round as a spy. Thankfully I do have a debug menu with some tools that allows me to cap enemy points. Otherwise, shit would be even more tedious to test. And then if I get overhealed while I'm a spy off the enemy point, then I'm done. Like, we will have accomplished so much in one day. That's pretty awesome. I'm just amazed that it's going this well. I guess at this point, it's a combination of the fact that I'm getting more experienced in this bullshit, and that the overall game mode is getting, like the code base is getting more and more sensible. So it's easier to sort of plug and play. 156, that's a half an overheal, that's correct. Okay, let's go in the round. Add cons. Oh, well, nope, gotta check one more thing. Make sure that when I cap the one that's in my territory, that it correctly gives me no overheal. Yep, perfect. Oh yeah, that's right, healing of any kind takes off the crits. Oh, I don't even have to kill anybody, I can just go cat mid. I love that that's a valid strategy now. Overtime. Oh, I'm not on the losing team. Interesting. Because of course there's no winning or losing team. I don't know if I like that or not. Because it prevented the point from unlocking, which I did not like. I should probably change that. I'd rather have the point unlock at all times. Mental note. Well, not mental. I'm literally writing it down. Don't let flags trigger overtime in stalemates. Something like that. I'll know what I mean. And if not, I can just refer to the video. Fuck it. Oh, I've got Arena Revolver. I don't remember why. I think it was because we were memeing pretty hard in the Mach 2, and I was playing like utter shit anyway, so there we go. I'm gonna go to the furthest one, because in my mind that's the most likely to screw up. Bind Q. Wait, what am I talking about? Oh yeah, no. Wait, right. Of course I'm getting overheal. I'm on the wrong team. Oh, that's weird. No, I'm just confusing myself. Bind RS edit menu. This is all correct. Debug, reset base, then debug, capture base red. Here goes nothing. So right now I'm not healing. I'm so spooked. Oh, I'm getting overheal. And there's no bubble. Perfect. Capture base red. No heals, no heals, no heals. Heals. In precisely the right number. And drop disguise. Not a problem. That's absolutely awesome. So many things that were so buggy just got like wrecked. I think with that I am done with the Arena Respawn official development stream number 1. This has been fun. Hopefully it's given you some insight into the extremely tedious process that is modding Team Fortress 2. Thanks very much for watching, and I will stream again sometime next time. I don't know. We'll find out whether I decide to stream again. Let's see. Oh, right. There's no actual way to shut the stream off, which is kind of amusing. You just have to stop streaming and then it'll shut it off. So, anyway, catch you guys next time. It's been fun.